How do you do, y'all? Tables here. We have another patch. It is Tuesday. I did not think that they would be doing this, this quickly. I was assuming it was going to be Friday. But yeah, we're going to go over these. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, so we're just going to hop into it. So all these little checkpoints, they've added fast travel between those in the areas to help with backtracking. This is great. This is a A+ change. Big fan. Passive point respecking on average 40 to 50% less gold. Huge. Added a shortcut to open skills from advanced information by right clicking on the skill. Love that. Just nice little quality of life. You can now compare. That's for controller, which any more support for them is always a good thing. Current chance shards to the currency exchange. And added a travel to guild hideout when interacting with the waypoint, which is also nice. This is something that we're going to be setting up in our guild, and I'm hoping that I can give power to decorate to somebody else in my guild, because I do have somebody that really enjoys decorating hideouts, and so hopefully they can be able to do that. Okay, so maps no longer have additional LE resist penalties for once you hit T6 and T11. I think this is just a great change. I didn't even know this was a thing until, because I'm still in like T6s. Like, I'm just kind of going slow at my own pace. Overall, this is a good change. And the last time that I saw that you lost res during the campaign, they didn't exactly make it known. Like, it wasn't this big pop-up, hey, the game's getting harder. No, it's just like, it's like this little text in the text box. And like, it was so easy to miss. Crit strikes for monsters now deal 40% less bonus. This is absolutely massive for one-shots. Huge fan. Chaos damage now scales less aggressively. This is also nice. This is going to cut down because my chaos res is currently bad, and I am constantly dying in my T5, T6 maps to random chaos damage. The ground laser and ground lightning abilities used by the Ruined Knight in the expedition encounters now deal substantially less damage. I can see how this could be an issue. I personally haven't had any issues with anything expedition, but I'm also a minion build in the in-game currently, so that's to be expected. But any kind of nerfs to the over-tuning of mobs is a great thing. Added a waystone modifier that adds burning ground to your maps, no longer increases in coverage or area with higher tier waystones. This is a W change. Anyone that was an old PoE2 player fully understands how crappy burning ground is. The Siphon Flash Charges modifier on monsters now drain 10 times less flash charges per second. Wow. Okay. That's interesting change. 10 times is drastic. This is a big one. Disabled the volatile crystal modifiers to be revisited in the future, pending telegraphing improvements. Yeah, this is just great. Because I know people die from this constantly. I think Crep said PoE2 is no chill, PoE1 is chill, and this is a reason. This helps us for the game to be just a little bit more chill. It's just nice. Trail of Fire monster monitor now deals 30% less damage and lasts 3 seconds from 5 seconds. Another gigantic W. These things just suck your health down like a vampire. It's insane. So this is a very welcome change. Trail of Lightning modifier now lasts half the duration of its original, which is nice. Same thing for the Ice monster modifier. The purple explosives created by volatile plants now deal significantly less damage. So, those little plants will spawn, the little purple orb will follow you around, and then, when you have to like run into it and it'll explode, and then you just got to dodge out. Yeah, those are not going to hurt nearly as bad. These chaos changes are so good for ritual. Because currently I do a map. If it has ritual, I save all the rituals for the end. Because if I die, then I don't complete the map. Now we're in a situation where we can be more efficient. Because the way I was doing it was way less efficient. Lots of backtracking. It's really sucky. But now it should be a lot safer. Practice of prowling chimerals and maps now contain less and spawn alongside some zombies. Okay, that's good. Just some pack balance. Lower the baseline monster density for breach encounters. I think this was kind of needed. I couldn't even, in my minion build, I couldn't even do breaches. I still can't really do breaches. My minions still don't do like enough damage Uh, there's just so much. And I'm sure for some builds it's great, but I think it needed to be toned down a hair. And this is kind of what we're seeing. Fix it inconsistency in different types of packs that could spawn during breach encounters. You should see more different types. This is nice. The volatile spawned by volatile fiends in the Trial of Chaos modifier now accelerate over time. Okay, so what this is doing is essentially stopping the constant dodge rolling, right? And then you just have like a million volatiles following you around. And as long as you don't interact with them, you're pretty much good. Now, this is essentially going to force you to deal with it and to react accordingly. Stormcaller are now the modifier in Trials of Chaos are now smaller, take longer to charge up, and give you more time to escape once triggered. Oh, this is wonderful. The ruins now also get larger as the modifier is upgraded. I think this was one of the more, for me personally, I find these to be very annoying, just because they cover all over the place. And so this is a really nice change for TOC. Improve the hitboxes of a number of abilities used by Blackjaw, the Remnants. The crossbow variants of the decrepit mercenary monsters that dealt fire damage now deal less damage. Okay, great. Another great change. Less damage. Great. Love it. Okay, so now we're into the real juicy stuff. Honor damage now scales down based on distance to enemies. You now take up to 35% less honor damage when in close range, tapering as you further away from the monsters. This is huge for our melee brethren. I have it easy in Trials of Sekhemas. I'm a minion player. Except for the fact that minions are still terrible in narrow passageways. So you end up with a situation where like only one guy is attacking. And if there's any like range mob, you're just getting bombarded in the back line. It's really quite terrible. But for this is just so big for warriors and monks or any melee in kind. It just makes everything so much easier. I don't know if they did any scaling because pretty much everyone else, first few trials, super easy. The jump from 2 to 3 on the floor is massive. Absolutely massive. So hopefully this helps to alleviate some of that pain. And yeah, I mean, time will tell. 35% is a lot. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. Another big one, fix the bug where damage over time was dealing 3 times as much damage. Meaning that when you got poison, I mean, all your honor was just cooked. If you got poison, if you got ignited, and you got a damaging ailment, bleed, you're done. It's over. That run is cooked. So that's all fixed now. I mean, it's still nice to run a poison ignite charm. You can probably, there's a little bit more leeway now that this bug is fixed. So that's super nice. Skittering golems no longer use basic attacks and instead now just explode, as their attacks were largely unavoidable when in melee range. Another W change for all our melee brethren in PoE 2. Love it. Serpent Clan now burrow and ambush attacks now have improved visual telegraphing and cannot be used from as far away. This is also annoying. Like when I'm doing SOK and my minions are stuck in a hallway and like only 2 can attack, they would literally burrow under the ground and then come up and hit me just to target me. And it was so incredibly annoying. So this is a great change. Volcanoes created by the first floor boss, Rattle Cage, now have half the duration. Another W change for those who don't do as much DPS. Added keyword hover for the honor mechanic. Just trial, like quality of life, I guess. Okay, so yeah, these are great changes. Great changes. Skill balance. I personally like Rolling Slam, but there's just better skills. So it's nice to see a little bit of an improvement. Rolling Slam, second slam now does 50% more damage to heavy stunned enemies. And as we all know, maces are the stunning weapon. Ice shot shards, secondary, now gains additional projectiles as it levels up. Very nice. The ice shot shards now deal with targets within a 90-degree cone. I haven't used, like, you guys are going to have to bear with me. I have not used a ton of these skills. I've mainly been doing minions. But it looks as though Eye Shot is somewhat buffed. Electrocuting Arrow base duration to 25 seconds from 12. Doubling quality bonus also. Huh. Okay. Barrage now has 25% less damage on barrage attacks, down or up from 60. Okay, that's nice. Barrage now has +2 repeats base from +1, so we got a little barrage buff here. Shock Chain Arrow Shockwaves now deal 100% more damage. That seems a bit excessive. 100% more? That seems crazy buffed. That's huge. Let's see. Sniper's Mark cooldown reduced from 6 seconds to 2 seconds at all levels. Oh, very nice. Combat Frenzy now can gain a frenzy charge no more than every 3 seconds. So that's a buff. And approximately 1.5 seconds. So they just did like an early game change. Stormcaller Arrow's Bolt now gains impact radius as it levels. So an AoE buff. So I saw something about this on Jungron's channel. Super duper scaled Vine Arrow levels was producing like insane levels of dot damage. And so I think this is the adjustment, as they stated, for, you know, and now it's slightly higher. The damage over time has been adjusted. It is now slightly higher at low levels and substantially lower. And I think they wanted this to be more of a combo type ability instead of a main skill, which, you know, it is what it is. I use this on my Ranger. I'm a big fan of Vine Arrow because it slows enemies. And I saw a video of that Vine Arrow that was like super juiced, and it was nuts. It probably needed to happen. Tornado Shot's damage over time has been adjusted. It is now slightly higher at low levels and substantially lower at high. So more or less the same thing as Vine Arrow. Magnetic salvos can now only use your stuck lightning arrows as opposed to those created by your party members. So that's a bit of a nerf to probably a group exploit to some degree. So feels bad for the salvo players. Increase the damage growth per level of Unearthed, not the menu component, just the on hit. Bone Storm, Bone Cage, Bone Blast, a one skill, and Power Siphon, also a one skill. Results in approximately 50% more damage at level 25, which is it's not very hard to reach level 20. It's very easy. So this is kind of nice. I'm certainly interested in doing like a bone style, you know, maybe maybe not Infernalist, but Blood Mage. It seems kind of interesting. Increased the damage growth per level on Essence Drain, Contagion, Profane, Ritual, which I don't know anyone is actually using this because you have to stand there and channel. So it's kind of weird. Unless you can like slowly move and channel. I don't really know. You should be able to actually. But I haven't seen anyone use this. And Chaos Bolt, which is a one skill, results in approximately 33% more damage at gem level 25. So this is quite nice for our Chaos Dot. And, you know, there is some synergy with Chaos Dot and minions, where your minions can actually apply Wither on hit. And so that's another build that I've been kind of peeping a little bit. Bone Cage base critical strike has been increased from 15 to 15 from 13. So nice little buff for Bone Cage, a little tiny buff. So this is a big one for the minion meta right now. The current minion meta is SRS and Skeleton Arsonists. It is probably the best minion build in the game right now. And Skeleton Arsonist spirit costs now match Frost and Ice Mages from level 5 and onwards, making them more expensive while keeping their cost early game the same. I think this is a reasonable change. We don't really see a lot of people running pure mages. And part of the reason why the Arsonists are so good is because they are paired with the Hound's fire exposure plus SRS, right? And the spirit efficiency of SRS is just through the roof for the amount of damage that they can put out. So it's nice to see them bring the Arsonists in line. I'm kind of surprised that there's not an SRS change, but, you know, The night is young. Bone offering explosions now have 15% crit strike chance from 13. So small little buff. This one is very interesting to me, right? I remember seeing this skill, Resonating Shield, and it looked super fun. And I really have a fun idea to do to build around Resonating Shield because it armor breaks just natively and a Thorns build. But it just, the damage is so bad. It's so bad, it's kind of hard to tell if the health bar is actually going down. That's how terrible it is. And I mean, this isn't like a massive buff, but it might actually make it somewhat competitive for shield skills specifically. Now 6 to 8 per 15 armor. It is quite nice. It's better than what it was. And that coupled with thorns and with the helmet that makes all damage instead of just melee, we might have somewhat of a build on our hands. Now, it's not gonna you'll be forced to do Trial of Chaos. You won't be able to do Sekhemas with this kind of build. You can't do thorns with Sekhemas. But you can do Trial of Chaos. And I'm very curious, just going like full on tank, and you can scale your thorns and your Resonating Shield through defensive stats. So I find that very appealing. So this is something, in my opinion, I'm going to be testing, and I think people should be looking out for it because I think it's kind of a fun idea. Resonating Shield also got its area increase, which is a wonderful thing. Shield wall explosions increased to 4 meters, which is nice. They can now create a maximum of 2 walls, which is also really nice. So that's a big buff to shield wall. Siege Cascade now has an attack time of 75% from 55. It now searches for targets in a larger radius. It now has 50% more damage against immobilized enemies. Oh, so the damage got nerfed. The explosion now deals 167% more damage, accounting for the decrease in damage against immobilized. Oh, so it's less conditional damage, but more just raw unconditional. Okay, that's good. That's always nice. Like, more unconditional damage is almost always better than conditional damage, for the most part. There are some exceptions. Siege Cascade now has 30% less reload speed. Okay. And the quality is now 2% damage against, so another conditional quality multiplier. Stormblast bolts now have a maximum of 30 active bolts. Wow. So it went from 9 to 30 maximum bolts. It now has 5 bolts in the clip, so you get more in your clip. And you have 30% less. So Stormblast just buffed. Just straight up raw buff. Plasma Blast now has 47% more damage with its initial hit and 25% less damage with its explosion, causing it to rely less on colliding with walls to deal enough damage. So just changing its profile to make it more reliable, which is never a bad thing. So Artillery Ballista's explosion radius is now increased to 1.8 meters, like a very small AoE buff, and its damage was increased by 21%. So just a decent little buff. Gathering Storm's Perfect Dash now deals 53% more damage, large buff. Wave of Frost now has 275% more freeze buildup at all levels. Wow. Okay, so that's an interesting change. That's like a pretty sizable buff to freeze build up. Okay, we're getting into stuff that I haven't really played with. So Staggering Palm's duration now scales with levels. It has a 6-second duration at 1, scaling up 0.2 seconds per level. I look at this kind of like I look at Armor Break. It was 6 seconds and now it's 12. It's just a nice quality of life buff. Just overall, so it's nice to see those. Staggering Palms projectiles now deal 20% more damage at all levels, so it's a small little minor buff. So I did level a ranger. It is now, I am Pathfinder, and I did try out some of the concoction skills, and man, they suck charges like you wouldn't believe. The damage is just kind of meh. And so it looks like we're getting some sizable buffs to pretty much all the concoctions. And they only consume 3 charges instead of 5, which is super good for early game sustain. You know, if you want to do your first trial and you want to go ahead and start using a concoction, as long as you invest a little bit into flasks leading up to that point, I think it will be far more sustainable than it is currently. Let's see, their damage has been increased and deal approximately 66% more damage when the skill is level 20. In addition, the base added damage has been increased by 50% for all concoction skills, with poisonous and bleeding concoction receiving greater damage buffs. Wow. So that's really nice. So the lightning concoction got a 2%. I mean, they all received the damage, but specifically lightning got a 2% crit buff. Now has a critical strike chance of 1% from 7. So that got nerfed. So the ice got nerfed. At least its crit chance, anyways. Explosive concoction now has 100% more chance to ignite enemies and 100% more magnitude of ignites. Sheesh. Now has 100% more chance to inflict shock, and the shattering has 100% more chance to freeze buildup. I think these are good changes, and I think they will go a pretty long way to making them a lot more competitive in the skill lineup. And I am definitely, I'm definitely itching to see how they compare to just like, you know, like just a generic poison bow build. Because currently the poison bow builds, they're not bad. I've been having a lot of fun with mine. But I like the idea of a concoction, and I'm very keen to see how these buffs are going to treat the concoction skills. The Hunter's Talisman passive now grants +1 charm slot. That's huge. The small passive skills leading up to it grant the stat it formerly gave. The charm helper text has been updated to indicate that you cannot have more than 3 charm slots unlocked, so that we can add more sources of it in the future. So just, you know, just an extra charm slot. It's never a bad thing. Added new lightning damage and electrocute cluster, the passive skill tree between ranger and monk sections. Probably very welcome for those lightning monks, and I feel like most of the rangers are doing lightning. The heavy frost notable passive now causes hits to only ignore enemy resistance of frozen enemies if their resistances were positive. I think most people need to understand that not every single enemy in the game has the same set of resistances. I believe that they do vary. It seems as though, like, for instance, certain minions that we have access to, you know, even their resistances are different. If you go and look at the resistances, you will find that they vary. Let's say you put 20 all res, some might have 0 fire because they were negative, for instance. And so I believe it is the same case for the actual monsters and mobs in the game. That some might have an incredible amount of lightning and not very much fire res. Supercharged Slam now builds up stages slower, but gains 40% more damage per stage. Oh. Okay, so that's kind of a buff, but there's a downside because you have to just sit there and charge it. Electrocute is now 25% harder to build up, but the damage penalty has been removed from the support gem. I think that's a pretty reasonable trade-off, personally. Everyone wants more damage, and if it takes longer to electrocute, so be it. I'd rather have the damage, because the damage is everywhere. It applies to everything, so it's just better. It is now more difficult to chain freeze enemies by reducing the amount of freeze buildup applied after a freeze has been applied. So yeah, they're nerfing all the stun stuff, or the immobilization, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, hello, it's me.
added a marker effect to Ember Fusilade's preferred target.
This is how it's going to be.
And then we got some beautiful support balance. Added the Tremor support gem, which can be used to give multiple more aftershocks to skills with a damage penalty. Added the Bidding support gem, which is used to give more damage to command skills, i.e. Frost Mages, Storm Mages, and the like. Brutes and Brutes don't have a command skill. Reavers have like a Rage command skill, but it's not like a raw. It's not like a raw damage. So this is more for other specific minions, and we'll see. We'll see how well this does.
Is it down right now?
Currently, the skills don't really do much other than maybe shock every once in a while. They chill, freeze, whatever. They're just okay, and I don't think one gem is really gonna honestly it's really gonna make that much of a difference.
Because I'm starting to.
So all the exposure gems no longer penalize damage, which is awesome. This is also very very nice for the Hellhound, and it makes it just makes everything easier for everyone looking to expose. And I think this is a good change that needed to happen.
Totems would be fucking awesome.
Electrocute support no longer penalizes damage and instead prevents the skill from being able to shock.
Well, I started feeling the pushback.
Lacerate, which is a chance to bleed, essentially, got buffed by 20% from 30. And Venom got a 10% nerf, which is fine. The Impact Shockwave support now has an aftershock of 2 meters instead of 1.4, just a little bit of an AoE buff. The Bidding support gem is 30% more damage to command skills, which, you know, it's okay. We'll see how it actually plays out. Consider casting support now only supports spells you cast yourself. It also now grants 40% more spell damage. So you get more damage, but you're also losing even more cast speed. And you have to cast it yourself. And so, you know, I think that's an okay trade-off. Aftershock got buffed by 5%. So 25% chance to cause an aftershock. Mobility support no longer has a damage penalty, but applies 30% less movement speed penalty from 40%. So you have this... This has a 100% chance to inflict ailments. So it just got doubled, essentially. Ricochet now has a 40% chance to chain from terrain, so it got doubled. Withering Touch now deals 25% damage from 50. This is a great buff. This is very nice. You can put this in your minions to help them put even more Withering Touch and put even more withers on your target. And yeah, this is really nice. Ferocity support now has 40% more skill speed when consuming a frenzy charge from 30. So for those running frenzy charges, this is like a minor skill speed buff. Change the wild shard support to fire projectiles in a circle instead of a spiral. Kind of, and just I don't know. I don't really know how much difference that's going to make, honestly. Decaying support now deals 60% of intelligence as chaos damage. Wow. So that got doubled. That's kind of nice. I don't know if it's really going to be enough. I don't know. I mean, if you use it in conjunction with other skills, like you're probably supposed to, I'm sure that you will see a sizable difference. But I'm not convinced Decaying Hex support is really going to be worth much. And stopping ground support, Shockwave now deals 80 to 100% percent of your strength as Fizz. This is a massive buff, humongous buff, and it's scaling considerably off your strength. And this is looking kind of appealing for some build ideas. I kind of like this gem. It just sounds kind of cool now that it's like scaling that heavily off your strength. It's just another reason to strength stack. The charm modifiers on belts have been made substantially more common. Yeah, I think this was mentioned in the patch preview. The unique item, the Adorned, it now applies to time lost jewels. The time lost jewel modifier of regeneration now applies 3 to 7% life regen rate to notables in radius from. Oh, so that got a pretty sizable buff. And then we have a quite a few bug fixes. I'm probably not going to go through here and go over these. Though every once in a while you will find some stuff that will inadvertently buff or nerf builds. So I do recommend y'all go through there. I don't really care about these. I've never really been too much of a fan of like reading, because for the most part they're not going to affect maybe 0.5% of builds, if that, and they're usually far outliers of things that are happening in the game. And most of the time they're just really nice bug fixes that needed to happen. And honestly, this is not a very sizable list considering this is an early access game. So yeah, anyways, that is our patch. We had some pretty good stuff. The one thing I did not see is improvements to map sustain, and that is slightly concerning, as I am currently in the midst of fighting map sustain, and I'm not able to progress the end game because I just don't have access to any maps. So that's a little brutal, that was not addressed, but perhaps we'll see something, cross our fingers and say a little prayer, that might be addressed before the holidays hit. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you guys in the next video. Please be good to yourselves. I'll see y'all next time.